guys, welcome back to World of Tanks with the Captain, and today I'm going to be doing a review of the Tier 6 Soviet tank destroyer, the SU-100. Now, I've been driving this tank for about 30 games or so, 30 or 40 games, and I've generally grown to quite like it a lot. I really like the SU-85, its baby brother, and I think there's a visual glitch right here. This probably shouldn't be popped up like that. I think they're fixing that, but anyway. This is an HD tank, and you can see it's got some nice detail. It looks pretty nice. Overall general size of the tank is it's fairly low slung. It's still riding on a T-34 chassis from the back, but they've bolted on more armor to the front, so you've got 75 frontal armor. But generally firepower-wise, you're good. Armor-wise, you're mediocre at best. And mobility-wise, you're actually quite good because you're based on a T-34. We'll get into the hit points next. 580 hit points is pretty good. It's better than the Dicker Max, which is my other Tier 6 tank destroyer that I have. Take a look at the weight. Weighs about 32 tons, so it's not overly fat. Engine power is 520. You only have 2 engines to choose from, and the upgraded one has only got 20 more horsepower, so if you don't need to upgrade the engine, upgrade it last. The top speed's 50, so this thing is actually pretty good at relocating and getting out of a crappy spot if you need to relocate, if you don't have good shots or your flank is getting pushed and all your tanks have died in front of you. So another thing that's great is your traverse is 36. That is also quite nice. A lot of medium tanks actually have like 36 at Tier 5 and 6. So generally you've got the mobility of a medium tank with the wide selection of guns. So the mobility of the SU-100 is great. You won't have any problems moving around the battlefield. Of course, you don't have a turret, but you're driving a tank destroyer for a reason. So armor from the front, you have 75, and it's fairly heavily sloped, as you can see right here. The lower plate's not too big, but it's fairly angled. Weak spots, you don't want to shoot here. If you want to try and pen this guy, you got to try and shoot right around here. I found shooting this hatch works just about the best, and it's quite huge. You can also shoot the cupola. It's pretty easy to hit. Any shots going in through the side here will damage the engine, the fuel tanks, and possibly ammo rack the tank. I've had it been ammo racked a couple times, so you got to look out for that. If you're looking for the saw is on the left-hand side of the tank, in case you need to chop down some trees if someone steals your logs. Next, we'll take a look at the rate of fire. No, we'll take a look at the gun traverse speed and the gun firing arc. So the gun traverses back and forth pretty quickly. There's no problem with that. It gets around really quick. It's not slow to move. The gun arc is actually quite good. It's kind of like this-ish. If you look at another tank like the Dicker Max, the Dicker Max actually has a really narrow firing arc. You got to turn the whole tank, and it screws up your aiming reticle. It makes it huge all the time. You don't have anywhere near the same problem with this tank or the SU-85, the one before this. So those are two things that are quite nice. Its gun depression isn't amazing, but it isn't really terribly bad. It's like -3 or something either. I think it's like -5, which is typically what you get on most Soviet tanks. So that part's good. You also get another nice jump up from the SU-85. You go from 280 to 350 on view range, but your signal range is also in the toilet. Your guy must be just honking back the vodka because he's not paying attention to what's going on the radio. Next, we will take a look at, not the turrets because there are none, we'll take a look at the guns. And there are actually like 3 viable guns you can use on this tank. And they're all very different and usable in their own way. So we'll just separate these out into big, bigger, and tiny. So looking at the first gun, actually we'll look at the 100mm first, because this is the one I started using, and I actually didn't like it that much for whatever reason. It's the 100mm. And it has a rate of fire of 7.78, so you got a reload time of right around like 7 to 8 seconds ish. So that's not bad. Your pen's also good at 275. So your penning isn't a problem. For whatever reason, your prem rounds are 235 instead of 217, like on the 122mm. So that's weird, but good. You do 250 damage, so you kind of split difference between 180 and 400. Your accuracy is 0.4, but in my experience, I didn't get along with this gun for whatever reason. I didn't find it hit anything from anywhere, but I mean, statistically average-wise, it's supposed to be 0.4 isn't great, but it's not like 0.46 or 5 or whatever. But I generally didn't find I got the results quite as well with this gun for whatever reason. So I switched, and you got 2.3 aiming time. So I switched to the first gun, actually, of all things, which is basically the same gun you have on the SU-85 and the T-34-85 with a slightly buffed rate of fire, but everything else is bog standard the same. You got 145 pen, 200 pen with APCR, 180 damage across the board there. And what makes this gun different from the other two guns is it's actually accurate. You get 0.34 as far as accuracy goes. So you can pin the tail on a donkey at 1,000 yards, and it's pretty damn accurate. So that's what I like about this gun. And its aiming time is 2.3. I kind of think this should be buffed to like 2.1, because if you're going to use the same gun from the SU-85, why is it exactly the same, basically? I think a little bit closer attention could be paid to that. But the last gun I've started using was the 122, and I unlocked that by using these two guns. I actually unlocked it mostly using the 85mm, because this gun reloads every 5-ish seconds. This one's more like 8 seconds, and this one is 12 seconds. So you get a pretty broad range of reload times between the 85mm all the way up to the 122. With this gun, like I said, you got 122 mil. You've got about 12-second aim time, which is what I currently have on it, and 175 with pen, only 217 with your APCR, so you're going to have a little bit of trouble penning like really heavily armored tier 8s like KV4s or KV5s if you don't shoot their weak spots or get them in really flat armor pieces. One spot where this is nice is it does more than double the damage of the 85, but this thing firing twice also does 360, 300, and almost 400 if you roll decently with 2 shots in 10 seconds. So you got the DPM advantage with the 85, but you have the one-shot derp ability with this tank as well. And in the few games I played with this, I mean, it's been really good. I'm sure I can get trolled and kicked around with it pretty well as well, though. So between 390 damage, you got 0.43 accuracy, which is not good, and you got 2.9 aim time, which is a heck of a lot longer than either one of these. So I've actually had decent results with all of them. The least decent results were with the 100mm. The gun I would probably recommend would be the 122, but I had good success with using the 85 as well, because I'm an accuracy / DPM guy when it comes to tank destroyers over just outright derp damage. But it depends on the range, it depends on the map, it depends on how much cover you have. That really determines which gun you're going to use. But I liked all three of them, but I liked the 122 and the 85 the best. But your mileage may vary, and you can use whatever gun you want. Crew-wise, I just took 6 cents, and yeah, I could have spent money to switch it over later on, but I don't really care. So I just took 6 cents and then camouflage for my other crew guys. And one thing to take note is if you don't have a tank destroyer that you use to level up your dudes, like an SU-85I or an SU-122-44, the 2 Soviet premium tanks for tank destroyers, you can alternatively just keep your SU-85B around and use that to train up tank crews as well. And that's kind of what I've been doing. I would just get an SU-85B crew, train it up, and then go back and forth between training it in the SU-85I and this tank. And from there, I would take that crew and then put that in the next tank if I plan on keeping the SU-100, which I probably will. So I've got a decent crew in the SU-85, I've got a decent crew in the SU-100, and I've got basically 2 training tanks that I use to level up my crews. Module-wise, I just take vents, and then I put binos, and I take camonet. Alternatively, you could put on a set of coated optics, because the view range is pretty okay. You get close to 400-ish with that. So that could be an option, and then you could put on a camonet as well. But it kind of depends on what you want. Since the tank is already stealthy in the first place, I do recommend putting on just credit camo. to try and make yourself as stealthy as possible so you don't get spotted and you don't get shot. If you get dropped down on by Artie, you have virtually no armor on the top and you will take a lot of damage or just die outright, which has happened to me previously. So watch out for that. Typically I carry more than 0 is in my APCR rounds. I'm not sure why that's at 0. Maybe I've been playing with 0 and I just haven't noticed because I've been penning every single shot. But typically I would carry probably like 4 or 5 HE just to get resets and stuff if I need to. And I'll drop back that to that. That's just about the loadout that I'd take. So we'll just buy that. And then I don't run any of these special modules, just small repair kit, first aid kit, and fire extinguisher as far as the consumables go. We'll take a quick look at the tech tree just to see all the layout of everything. So you start off with basically the KV-1 gun. It's the same gun you get on the SU-85i. And then you can jump into the 85, to the 100, to the 122. The 122 leads on to the SU-152, and the 85 leads on to the SU-100M1, which is the tank I am grinding on, and I'm 20,000 in on that to get this tank. I will probably keep this tank running long enough just to unlock the SU-152 as well, and then I will decide whether I'm going to keep the SU-100 or not. I probably will, because Tier 6 is probably my favorite tier. I like all the tanks because they're more of the historical tanks in the game and less of the fairy tanks that occur in Tier 9 and 10. So we'll get on to just a quick look at the whole line in general. So to get to this line, you need to go through the SU-76, SU-85B, SU-85, SU-100, and then you get branch choice between the SU-152 and this one, and they go all the way down, and they're extremely different tanks as you go down. This is an accuracy / DPM line with negligible, not negligible armor, but it's not as good as I would say is when you get to the 704 and the 268. The Object 263 also has decent armor. The SU-154 sometimes can bounce stuff, but from my experience shooting at these two, they're not extremely strong. But then again, neither are the SU-152 or ISU-152. You shoot them in the upper casement and stuff generally just goes in with 170 pen even. So those are the two lines you can go from this tank. But we'll quickly jump into some games and you can see how this thing fares on the battlefield. Alright, so we're on Mannerheim line, better known as Arctic region, in weird war gaming speak for how they decide to name their replay files. But driving the SU-100, driving up hills and stuff, not too bad. Doing about, I don't know, 20, 30 uphill. And we spot an SU-100. So I'm going to stop. I'm going to aim. And quite honestly, I don't know where the fuck that shot went. See, that's kind of what I was talking about with this gun. Like, I had fully aimed shot and broadside, and it didn't look like there was anything occluding the bottom of that tank, but it managed to miss. And now it looks like we've got a T-29. So we'll take a shot at him. Nice roll of 270. And I'm going to drop back. Looking back in on the middle. Those two scouts that were far to my left are dead. So just trying to use the bushes as my cover. Looking around a bit. Trying to see who is where. You don't want to stay scoped in all the time because you lose your objectivity on where everything is in the battlefield. So I can see this T-37 was getting rushed by the SU-85, but then he gets blasted by our Tier 8s. By the way, this is a Tier 8 game. This is about the worst matchmaking you'll ever get. And there was a lot of Tier 7s as well. There was only about a third of the team was Tier 6. So not really the best game for this tank at all. So I was trying to get a different angle on this T-29, but I didn't really want to sit out in the open like those guys to my right. That's generally where you don't want to stick your tank destroyer unless you have good frontal armor. So I just decided I was going to cover off the T-29 and see what was going on over here. So we've got him pulling up again, and I just waited a little bit. Made sure I got my aim shot in. So we've done a fair bit of damage to that T-29 already, but someone's firing into my position, so I decided to back up a little bit for a little while. And at this point, things were actually looking not too bad on our flank, but on the other flank, it looked like we were losing. So looking over here, see there's a T-37 on our team. Not too much going on. So I'll just speed this up. And this is tank destroyer gameplay, I mean. Not too exciting sometimes. And alright, we've got the T-29, so I'm aiming in. Managed to hit him, low roll. Now I'm backing up a little bit. Aiming in again.
Critical hit.
Managed to get eaten up in the tracks. And then I take a shot from the T-29.
Penetration.
Put another one into him. And then alternatively, I could have tried to track him there. Probably should have kept him in place, but I just decided to keep shooting him in the engine bay because that's kind of where I like to shoot, just because it gets eaten up by tracks a little bit less. And I was going to go back to base at this point because I saw that we'd lost that whole other flank, but then our T-37 got engaged by an LTTB, and this is where the gun depression of the tank isn't fantastic, so I had to drive forward enough to get my gun down. And he's taking damage here. He's down to 37 health. So I pump one shot into the LTTB. And reload, reload, reload. 8 or 9 seconds later. And pathetically crap roll of 225. And the T-37 takes him out. So managed to save that guy's ass and keep him alive. And now I'm going to go over to the other flank and try and help hold that against their team. Because over here we have a T-25-2 and we have one of those guys, the Emil. Apologize for my pronunciation. So there was another tank destroyer over here, but he's now dead. And we have an SU-85 who appears to just have been AFK with his gun barrel stuck up in there. So there wasn't a T-44 coming across, so I managed to put a shot in him, take him out, and we are pretty much even now at this point, but our TDs abandoned the hill, which was a mistake. They should just stayed put where they were and kept their advantage, because they had cover up there. They did what they were supposed to do by staying up there, but instead they left. And our T-37 drove into the cap and started capping. Unfortunately for the team, they had a full health T-44 still left, and he's just going to go maraud into there and destroy our guy because he was a one-shot. So I know there's an IS in the cap, and I thought, I can try and drive through these rocks, but no, not going to happen, and I didn't really want to get beached there like an idiot. So we'll just speed this up. And I gotta try and get an angle on, and there's the T-44 coming in, and he's gonna catch our guys broadsided as well, which isn't good. So he gets nailed by the artillery, and now I'm going to drive up, and whoa, gun depression fail, and I saw him shoot. So again, don't really know where that shot went. It looked like it went really low. So the T-44 has killed a T-37 at this point. And alternatively, yes, I really should have aimed that shot. But the Crusader ended up taking him out, which turned out to be pretty okay. Now I had to go forward, or I was going to get shot in the ass by the AT-15. So I'm going to get my tank turned around and try and get around to spot this guy so the artillery can hopefully hit him as well. So I'm going to poke out, and he misses his shot on me. And I can see a little bit of his gun. And I switched over to my APCR round, so I've got 237 pen now. And I'm using the side of the hill to kind of prop myself up so I can see him. Now there's two places to shoot at the A-15 as far as I'm aware, which is shoot directly at its gun or shoot at the little nobule on top, but it's on the left side of his tank, so you gotta peek around a little bit more to see that part. And I could see that he was fully aiming at me, managed to bounce a shot. And then artillery hits him.
Penetration.
And I put a shot into his tracks, track him in place. And this is goodnight, sweet prince for the AT-15. Now I had a bit of a, I don't know, brain fart here. I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. I thought maybe I'd head over there to that hill. And then I thought, okay, where is this guy coming from? Is he going to be coming from the south? Probably. So I was trying to get into this position here and try and hug this ridge. And then I see a tree fall, and I'm like, oh, damn it. So then I've got almost full health. Well, he's like half health, T-44, and he just juked around me because this tank isn't super fast. Our artillery missed its shot. Now my engine's toast. And this is pretty much like the worst case scenario for the SU-100. I'm trying to back into the hill so I can try and stay alive, but I probably should have started doing that from the beginning. But at the end of the day, I was fighting a T-44 Tier 8 medium tank versus me, and yeah, our artillery does die as well. You can watch that if you want. Bye. And he almost got a shot off here, I think. Come on, come on. He actually hit him, I think, too. Yeah, 333. And then he died. So this was a pretty decent game for a Tier 6 tank in a fully Tier 8 game. I ended up doing about 2,300, 2,400 damage. And managed to kill that AT-15 at the end. Probably was never going to kill the T-44. He was going to be able to kill me no matter what, I think. It was just really bad play for those guys to go towards Cap. The T-37 could have killed the artillery and then buggered off to just hang out and stay together. But instead, we separated because I had to go back and help Cap, and they went to their base. And again, that TD, he probably should have set up somewhere to fire into the Cap or cut off the 244 or do anything other than what he did. I wish he would have just stayed on this hill or come over here with me, because then we would have had a much better chance of taking out the T-44. But we lost, and we'll jump to the next game. You can see how the 85mm does. Alright, we're back on the same map again, and this was just some fun gameplay I had in this tank using the 85mm. So I went down here with our ARL to try and hold the bottom road line, which is one of the places you pretty much need to go and hold on this map, or you end up losing the south because they end up coming up and shooting your tanks in the side from here and from there. So I'm going to pop around, and that guy missed his shot, so I will take the opportunity to pump him for 163 damage in front of his tank. And it looks like the Jumbo is using the little tiny gun, or he's shooting HE. So we've got a BDR, we've got a Jumbo, and a 25 AT. So it's not really that great down here. I was kind of hoping that our Tiger would come down, but he chose not to. And if these guys all pushed at the same time, we would be dead. But they're not going to do that because they're stupid. So I'm just trying to get oriented here where I can support the ARL, but then the ARL just pulls out, kind of more or less broadsided in front of all their tanks, and he gets killed. So now it's me versus 3 tanks all by myself, and I don't really have anyone supporting me. So I'm going to stop here, try and get as much in behind cover as I can. Put a shot into him. I'm loading APCR because I need to pen. And the DPM of this tank allowed me to get another shot off and kill him. So that was great. Now DPM again. I'm going to pull out, take the shot. And I'm not sure why he wasn't shooting at me, so I'm going to shoot him again. And he's going to drive over here, up on the side. This is just bad driving. So I shoot his tracks off. And I'm going to keep him here. I'm going to take whatever hits I need to from that stupid Jumbo. And I'm just going to keep this guy here because he shouldn't have gone where he went. I'm not sure exactly what he was doing, or if he was having lag problems or his computer was slow, but that was just sad. And then the T-20 came around and finished off our dude, the Jumbo who was hiding in the back. And yeah, that was just a fun little exchange up close with the SU-100 with the 85. And it took a little bit more hunting to try and find out where their artillery was. We drove over here. It was no go. And it turns out that I pretty much just drove right past him. He was in that bush right there.
Enemy armor is damaged.
So put one shot into him. And another shot.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
So one of the main differences with the 85 is that I have to shoot tanks twice. But you do it a lot more accurately and you don't miss as much if you're shooting straight. And the main difference is I could have killed that guy in one shot if I rolled high with the 100mm, and pretty much 100% if I had the 122. So it's a different play style. It's definitely changes how you play and where you should go a little bit. Well, I'll show you the next game I have with the SU-85 or SU-100 with another game I had with the 85, which was a lot of damage, a lot of shooting, and it was quite a long game. So be prepared for that. All right, so we're on mines. I'm in my SU-100, and again, I'm in a heavily Tier 8, Tier 7 match. It's more, well, it's half Tier 6s, and then the rest are all Tier 8s and Tier 7s. So I'm just looking around. I spot a T-69, and I'm just going to reorient my tank a bit so I can get a better shot at him.
Critical hit.
Hit him in the tracks, unfortunately.
Ricochet.
And the AP rounds of this are letting me bounce a little bit.
Enemy armor is hit.
But that shot does go in on the VK-36. He has 100 frontal armor, so he's not a weak take frontally. And I got one into the T-69 because he poked around the corner by accident.
We didn't even scratch them.
And I'm just aiming at center of mass because I don't want to miss.
Enemy armor is hit.
And I'm just pumping this guy right through the front of his tank over and over again. And that's what an accuracy of .34 gets you. Which just happens to be better than the IS, and why he just missed me. So doing a pretty okay job of helping support my team through the middle.
Critical hit.
Got a critical on him. Our T-29 is just sitting out in the open. He really should be to the right over here, but he's not where he should be. He's just in the middle of the field like a dumbass. So I end up shooting quite a lot of rounds this game. I got close to running out. And then you can see that the IS is coming up here, so I put a shot into him. And having a shot every 5 seconds means I can just keep the pressure up on a lot of the tanks that are coming in and around the corners. So I'm going to try and shoot at the weak spot on the Super Pershing, and I just skimmed the top of his tank. And I got a shot at the side of the VK, so .34 accuracy takes him out. That gets me spotted. Super Pershing takes a shot,
Critical hit.
but shot misses again. There's not a lot I can do against Dez Super Pershing from this far away with the accuracy that I have, just because his weak spots are pretty damn small. And I was pretty sure that Walker Bulldog had driven into that bush, so I just decided to take a few shots into it just in case. Again, it's kind of hard to play this tank properly because I don't have Sixth Sense. I'm relying pretty much entirely on my team
Penetration.
to spot for me because my commander's dead. I didn't really feel like wasting a kit on my commander. So again, I'm just blind firing that bush. I only have 7 AP rounds left, but I want to try and help my friends in the middle here.
That one didn't go through.
So put one inside of Super Pershing, it bounces.
Enemy armor is
Hit him
damaged.
for 172. I'm going to try and hit him again.
Penetration.
So we're doing some pretty okay damage to him. He's only got 13 hit points left. And I'm just waiting for one of these guys to stop. They're jolting around a little bit. And I was hoping that the IS would poke out, and he did, so that's another 183 to him. And things are looking worse and worse as time goes on here. We're 5 to 8. And there's a shot I have at the super Pershing. It's really small. So I take one shot at his roof. I've only got 2 AP shells left now. And I might have a shot at the Bulldog. No, I don't. So I'm going back to the super Pershing. And back to firing at the IS. So I just don't want to get spotted by this guy if I don't need to. So I hit him again for another 150. And something hit really close to me. Then I take out the Bulldog. So now I'm up to 2 kills, but I've taken a hit from something not doing a lot of damage. It was probably the Cromwell up there. So I'm just gonna hang out here for a sec and try and get off the radar. Yeah, it was the Cromwell. I'm gonna pull back into my bush. And they're blind firing that rock to try and hit me. So there's still a super Pershing, and then there's the T-37 abandoning the other flank, which he should have stayed in the bush to my left, but instead he drove around to hide over here, which is unfortunate because their tank destroyers ended up coming through that way. Yeah, as soon as you abandon the beach on this map, you pretty much abandon your team right there, so don't do that if you have any brains. Alright, we're using accuracy of this tank and super Pershing down. So I'm up to 3 kills now. Ended up killing the Bulldog, which is a tier 7. Ended up killing the super Pershing. Ended up killing the VK. Doing quite a lot of damage. And I know that the Jackson's over there, and I've only got 18 normal rounds left. Or APCR rounds and 5 HE rounds. Took a speculative shot at the T-29, but I hit him in the turret. I got a shot at the Cromwell, but he's pulling back. And I'm jamming into this rock, but I don't have a shot. So I'm going to try and take out this IS, because our VK-45 is pretty low on health now. And we've got a Jackson, so I'm going to fully aim. Let him stop and settle to aim his shot. Unfortunately, the Jackson's frontal armor is stupidly good. But it's enough to cook him out. So now you can see that there's a tank destroyer to my left, which is not great. So they can fire into our base from there, which isn't fantastic. And now we've got a T-28 who's climbed his way from the back hill onto the middle hill. So now I'm paranoid about my left flank, as well as all the tanks that have the high ground to the front of me as well. So our T-37 just goes full retard and decides he's going to try and be hero run and drive in and cap the base out. But that's not going to work when he has no support and they can just drop off the hill and go kill him. See, like the Cromwell's doing right now. So there was a lot of bad play and mistakes, especially from that T-37. So I got a shot into that IS there, but now I've got a Jagdpanther, piece of crap tier 7 German tank destroyer. I absolutely can't stand the Jagdpanther. I think it's a complete piece of crap. So he drops off the radar, so I assume I'm off the radar at this point. He fires and misses his second shot into the rock. I managed to bounce a shot pretty amazingly. And now I'm just waiting. I'm hoping that that T-29 is going to come over and be able to plant one in the side of him and take him out. And wait for it. Yeah. So our T-28 friend came over and helped us out, which was great. And now our T-37 is just about ready to die. So at this point I was getting a little bit antsy. I wanted to try and get over there to try and maybe give some back support to, or catch those guys by surprise. But then I changed my mind and I got myself a little bit out of position. But a lot of their tanks weren't on the hill. It was the T-28 that I couldn't see that ends up getting me here. And I don't even know when I'm spotted because I don't have Sixth Sense. So I'm backing up, and then I get proxy spotted, and that's pretty much the end of me because I was trying to get into these bushes to try and stop this guy from flanking us. But in hindsight, yeah, I should have stayed in that bush and just sat there for the rest of the game until eventually this guy came around and flanked me and probably would have killed me by shooting me in the back because he would have spotted me for the T-28 anyway. This is probably going to be a loss because that T-28 had a decent amount of health as well. The IS had 100. This guy had full health. The Cromwell was about mid-health. But ended up finishing this game. I think it was second best on damage or tops on damage with the 85mm. About 2,700 damage for a tier 6 tank in a tier 8 game is pretty fantastic. It was a fairly long game, but I think it proves that accuracy does count. And when you need to pen, if you load APCR, you have 200 pen. So the 85 is definitely a legit gun to use. A lot of people think that you can't use it, but I don't think I would have made a lot of those shots, especially that last shot on the Super Pershing where he had 13 health left, and I managed to kill him by sniping him in his weak spot on the top left portion of his top of his turret. So a pretty fun game. Ended up losing again, but when you're bottom tier and you do 4 kills and almost 3,000 damage in a tier 6 tank, it's not usually your fault when you lose. Okay, so this is with the 122 mil. You can see that the barrel is significantly different looking from the 85 and the 100. It has a different end on it. Muzzle brake.
Time to roll out.
This is actually my very first game with the 122 on the SU-100. As you can see here, moving around, the firing arc of the SU-100 is quite good. Just trying to get up to the hill so I can fire down into the enemies. See that we have a Chaffee to the right who's going to spot something. We've got a Cromwell who's okay with just driving in front of his tank destroyers. So I'm going to reorient the tank, get a shot in on this Chaffee. Gonna aim, gonna aim, gonna aim. Not even going to fully aim, and yeah, managed to hit him. So I'll take that. First blood for me. Now there's a little bit of waiting around here, which is kind of boring. I didn't really have great shots at anything. I only got a critical on that VK, and our idiot Cromwell, who was just driving around the middle of the field, he ended up getting killed, which will usually happen to you when you drive like an idiot. And again, not really too much to shoot at, so I'm just going to keep this in double time. You even go to triple time. It's not fun to watch stuff that you can't really shoot. Again, all buildings, all buildings, all buildings, all buildings. This map really needs to change. It's not very fun, even firing it from the hill. If they stay in the back, there's nothing really much to shoot at anyway. Almost get a shot in that 843, but still, not really. There's only like little glimpses of shots, and when you're moving around your barrel around to try and kill shit, a lot of the time it's kind of hard to make sure you're hitting stuff. So I'm aiming again on the E25.
Enemy armor is destroyed.
492 damage. I think that's the highest roll I can possibly achieve with this tank. Maybe it was combined with someone else's shot as well. One thing to get used to is the 12-second reload. It's a lot longer. So I have a feeling like this SU-152 is going to drive down into the water. So eventually I'm going to shift myself so I can aim down into here.
Enemy is hit.
End up taking a shot for 375 into him. And try and help this Easy 8, who is part of the Captain clan. I don't know if...
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
It's not the real Captain, obviously. So I popped those two guys, killed that as the KV-85, and it was 8-7. And a lot of our team was pushing into their cap, so I was like, there's a fairly good chance we were going to win this one. That's good. And we've got our Easy 8 driving around in the middle of the field instead of close into buildings where he probably should be. And probably should have stayed in the hill. Probably would have had a shot at that jumbo, but I was hoping that he was going to pull up anyway. And I just wanted to get in closer to these houses so I would have a slightly easier chance at shooting some of these baddies. So I've got side shots at the M6. I don't really know where that shot went. Went somewhere. So this guy was nice enough to just stay broadsided and not move for me for about 12 seconds. So that was nice. If you're in an M6, don't ever do what this guy does. If you know there's a tank destroyer shooting you in the side, don't stay broadsided. He hit me. He had the weak gun. He only did 100 damage to me. Yeah, whatever. You can see now that there is a jumbo to my left. Shoots me and hits me. And I was thinking he might just YOLO around the corner, but he chose not to. I just wanted to get as much distance between me and him as possible so he would have a little bit of issues circling me. So he was shooting our artillery. I'm just going to jump to out of camera for this one. So I'm going to shoot him on the move, do 400 damage to him. I just want to get in as close as I can to him as possible so he has issues shooting me. But he's still penning me because he's shooting down at me. He did bounce that shot, and I put the last one into him, take him out. And now there is a KV-85 back there, and I have a house between me and him, and just wanted to get off the radar. So now we're good. Gonna pull into the house, pull into the trees. And this is where the World of Tanks spotting system just blows me away again. Watch this. It's KV-85. Yeah. It's not that stealthy. There was nothing occluding my vision between there and there. And somehow, through this, I could see through all those bushes. I had trouble picking him up at, what was that, 150 meters, 200 meters? Pretty stupid. Either way, I think they're working on the spotting system, and hopefully they get that fixed sometime soon. But again, Top Gun ended up doing 2,500 damage with the 122, and my first initial impressions were, this is better than the 100 because I do twice as much damage almost, and sometimes I don't even need to fully aim the shots, and it's just as accurate, it seems, as 0.4 with 0.43. So, yeah, I decided I'm going to do another game in this tank, and this is what happened. Alright, so I'm in my SU-100. We're on South Coast, which is, in my opinion, one of the shittiest maps in the game. I hate this map. I can't stand it at all. It's just a shitty camping lane-based paradise. I just don't enjoy it. So the plan was here to try and shoot as many of these buildings down as possible so they had nothing to hide behind. So I got my HE loaded, because I'd honestly forgotten to load in any PCR because I didn't really need it. Again, there's a lot of tier 7s and tier 8s. Only 2 tier 8s, but mostly tier 7s. I'm having trouble aiming in and getting loaded in time to shoot him. I don't really have a good shot at this T-69, so I'm just going to wait. And then Paramar's going to take him out with his Dickomax. But they had 3 tanks base rushing here, so I decided I'm going to go out and shoot that guy and set him on fire. And he didn't have a fire extinguisher. And then the Kaza guy on his T-34-85 ended up finishing him off. And I think that their T-34 was typing, not paying attention. So I'm not fully aimed at all. Doesn't matter. I'm in a Soviet tank, so I do hit him, do full damage. And using the mobility of the SU-100, I'm going to try and get down here and attack this Cromwell, because he's circling our dude. Again, not going to aim my shot. Going to do 400 damage-ish. Yeah. And that's why I'll end up using the 122 instead of the 100, because I would miss shots with the 100 for whatever reason. Even fully aimed, that this one just snapshots, and I don't miss, and it has the same pen and does twice as much damage. So, if you're on an enemy team, and you see that half your team has been annihilated, driving down the same flank over and over and over again, don't keep driving down that flank. It usually means there's a whole quartet of tank destroyers just waiting to shoot the living crap out of you. Oh, loading in AP rounds because I don't have an APCR. Gonna shoot at this IS. 175 pen seems to be more than enough to pen this guy.
That one didn't go through.
That one hit him in the tracks, but kept him in position so my team could shoot him up. And gonna reorient on the SU-122. A couple guys bounce. I don't bounce. I do 285 and take him out. And then the IS gets taken out. And the parade of tanks driving broadside in front of us just continues. It doesn't stop here. So the Tiger dies. Yeah, this is like a showcase of how bad you can play on the NA server, basically. Just a complete 12-3 annihilation game. Yeah, basically, yeah, I was just like, why the hell did you guys keep driving in front of us when we were just murder-fucking your entire team? But they kept doing it. But to be honest, I've watched a lot of replays from Jingles and whatever, and I've seen the quality of play on the European servers, and it's not any better than what's on this. Some guys that'll, like, one tank after another, like, driving into an STI at the end of the game to try and kill them, and one at a time, and instead of surrounding him and killing him, like, yeah. There's a reason why there's a lot of red players, and it is what it is. And will I be able to poach this last shot? Yeah, didn't fully aim that one either. So, not too bad. Ended up getting 3 kills. Ended up doing 2,500 damage in the SU-100 with the 122 mil. So generally, in my opinion, this tank is extremely strong. It has 2 or 3 very viable guns. One kind of splits the decision in the middle with the 100. I prefer the 122 or the 85. I think they both have their merits. One is super accurate and does a little bit less damage. The other one, like this with the 122, is seemingly stupidly accurate, even though its accuracy is bad. And it still does 400 damage. But yeah, at the end of the day, the guns are good, the mobility's good, the firing arc is good. The armor sometimes can bounce stuff off the matlet and from the front, and if you waggle your face around a bit, like a wet dog, there's not too much to dislike about the SU-100. It's definitely a very strong tank, and it definitely follows in the footsteps of the SU-85. I don't think that I'm going to maybe enjoy the next tank, the SU-100M1 or whatever, maybe quite as much as this. But we'll see when I get there. But in general, there's not a lot to dislike about the SU-100. It's got good guns, the mobility's good, the armor sometimes bounces stuff. It's fairly stealthy, it seems. You get a camo net, you get some binos, and you know, pitch your tent, do what tank destroyers do, and you know, play your role in the game. And I've had extremely great results. I've actually lost quite a lot of my games in this tank, but my kill ratio is like 3, my damage ratio is like 2.8 or something. So I don't know. For every tank that I kill, like I kill like 3 or 4 to 1. like there's not a lot you can do when you lose. Like sometimes you can do 2500 and 2700 like I did in my other game and still lose. And that's kind of the way things have been happening for me in this tank. So my win rate is actually not very good. It's like 46%, but I'm doing extremely well like individually in the tank. So eventually the averages will average out and I will probably get decent, probably between 50 and 62 like I kind of have in my other tank destroyers on the Soviet line. So at the end of the day, yeah, this tank is definitely a recommend. I recommend buying and keeping probably this tank. If you like tier 6 tanks, which is my favorite tier, then you can't really go wrong. And that's going to conclude this review. Thanks for watching, and get out there and tank destroy it up.